Welcome to the Savvy Dentist podcast with Dr. Jesse Green, the show where great dentistry meets great business. Listen in each week as we bring you an inspiring person who will share their story, ideas and business techniques to help you create a practice and a life you love. And now introducing your host, Dr. Jesse Green.
Hello everyone, it's Jesse Green here. Welcome back to SavvyDentist.com and to the Savvy Dentist podcast. It's wonderful to have you company for another episode of the show. Now today I am joined by a very special guest, and my guest is Dr. Rupert Neville, who along with his wife Alannah own a couple of practices in the south of England. Rupert is a long-term client of Savvy Dentist, and I asked him onto the show because he has a really great perspective, not just about business but about life. And I think Rupert is a deeply reflective human being. He's a really kind man. He's smart, intelligent, and very courageous in the way he goes about life. And I felt that there were so many wonderful lessons that Rupert would be able to share with other practice owners so that he could shine a light on a pathway for others that might be going through some challenges to help them come out the other side of those. And of course, the pathway is not always beautifully laid out. It's not always kind of pristine. Sometimes pathways are cracked or they've got weeds that nip along at your ankles, but it's a pathway nonetheless. And Rupert has had to deal with his share of challenges along the way, as you'll hear in this podcast, lots of challenges, and the way he's overcome them has been magnificent. So I really wanted to interview Rupert because I feel like there's so much he shares about his approach to life and his approach to business that is really relevant for everyone here. So please listen up. As always, have a pen and paper handy here because there are some absolute pearls of wisdom, some real nuggets of gold that I know that if you take action on them are going to make a tremendous impact, not just in your business, but in your life. So without any further ado, here's Dr. Rupert Neville coming all the way from the United Kingdom. Rupert, thank you so much for taking the time to come and hang out with us here at the Savvy Dentist podcast. You are, of course, joining us all the way from the UK. How's things across in your part of the world, mate?
All good, thanks, Jess. Firstly, can I say a massive thank you. I'm honoured that I'm allowed on the podcast. I never thought when I heard your dulcet tones all those years ago during COVID lockdown, I'd be sharing a hallowed microphone with yourself. So thank you so much.
Look, the pleasure is mine. The pleasure is absolutely mine. And knowing that you're a big cricket fan, I feel like this could be like a cricket commentary kind of episode, like a bit of a Richie Benno.
Yeah, definitely Richie there, mate.
Get a bit in there.
2-2-2.
2 for 22. I had my 22nd anniversary the other day. Anyway, we're off to a flyer. Rupert, what's really interesting about you, I think is really interesting, lots of things, of course, is your background is really quite remarkable. You've got a couple of practices. You've been involved in sports. We're going to unpack all of that as we go through. But for our listeners, can you just give us a little bit of context? Tell us a little bit about yourself, where your practices are, what sort of dentistry you do, and of course your journey into dentistry. What did that look like for you? Did you grow up kind of coming out from a wee small age, always wanting to be a dentist, or was it something that dawned on you gradually?
Jess, brilliant. We always talk about identity, don't we?
We always do.
And I have never identified as a dentist, ever.
All right.
So I think in my youth, I identified as a sportsman, a rugby player. Now I have no idea what I identify as. I'm trying to find that the next part of my journey. But yeah, I never thought that I would be a dentist. It's something I sort of fell into. There's a classic thing, isn't it? You say in your university interviews, I'm good at my hands, I'm good with people, tick, 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 therefore I'm going to be a dentist. So my mum sort of gave me the idea. I mean, I'm one of 5 kids, so give you a bit of background about me. I'm the 4th out of 5. So my 2 older sisters, first sister was a doctor. She's a rheumatology consultant. Mm-hmm. Second sister is head of drama and performing arts at a college in London. My older brother is a music producer and a DJ. I'm the black sheep. And then my younger brother is a doctor as well. He's a respiratory consultant as well. So it's either arts or medicine. There's no between.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it?
So I picked the in-between the team path. So my dad's, he's a doctor as well. So same as my younger brother, a respiratory consultant. My mum was a teacher, but very arty, very, very musical. And yeah, we grew up in a fantastic environment, really, and reflecting a lot about it recently. They loved us first and foremost. They challenged us, but let us have a wonderful environment to thrive in. And the key thing that they did, actually looking back, is they celebrated success.
Wow.
I never thought that I was one person who wasn't looking for their love. And we used to have great times there. Not even when we succeeded, we tried to succeed and failed. We would come through that door after a performance, after a game, whatever it was, and the whole family would be there clapping us as we walked in.
Wow.
And it made you feel 10 foot high. It was incredible. But also they gave us this wonderful, I suppose you call it resilience now. I called it bounce back ability when I was at university.
Yep.
That they said, it's okay to fail. You've got to go. It's really important to understand that life's about learning lessons from failing. And they gave us the environment to shoot for the stars. And if you fail, that's cool. Don't worry, go again. And my mum's favourite saying was that everything happens for a reason. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. So we were, as kids, I just encouraged to go for it. In all we did, our sporting, academic, whatever it was. But it created a wonderful competitive nature with us, which was almost friendly competitive. It was never went too far away, but we were competitive nonetheless. So, but again, I put this in again, we were enveloped in love constantly. And I think that was a wonderful thing growing up in. Good environment.
It sounds like a really idyllic childhood, actually. It sounds really lovely, and obviously getting to explore your interests. You obviously had the opportunity to explore your sporting interests, and I'm not sure if you did drama and other things as well, but it sounds like a really well-rounded
How can you tell, Jesse? How can you tell?
For those listening to the audio, Rupert is one of the most handsome men you're ever going to meet in your life. He's a good-looking dude, and anyway, so he's going to put the rest of us to shame.
Stop flirting, Jesse. Just started.
I know. Jeez. But it really was, the opportunity to explore lots of different interests in a really, I suppose, to use that much overused term, safe space. And what I really love about that is the fact that, A, your wins were celebrated, but also your failures or your setbacks you're just encouraged to get on the horse and go again. I think that's a really rare experience, to be honest with you. And so what a wonderful environment. And I wanted to ask you, you're a parent now. How has your own upbringing influenced how you parent young Ethan?
Oh, hugely. So I've got a 11-year-old boy, Ethan, he's our world. He's a great little kid.
He's a good dude.
He's a really good dude. And we constantly, I really reflect on my childhood. I've done a lot of reading now on parenthood and perfectionist issues. I think us as dentists and as a rugby player for me as well, we so taught about getting our skills 100%. Anything that's not quite 100% is not good enough. So I've done a lot of work on, because now I coach Ethan in sports, especially cricket. Cricket's a great example. It's just, you've got to have really good technique at a young age. So you find yourself as a parent, as a coach, when you're throwing a ball to your kid, is you're constantly correcting them. Now, the narrative from him is that nothing I do is ever good enough. And for me, when I heard that, I was like, that's so powerful. There's two things to it. Firstly, that they think nothing they do is ever good enough in your eyes. But secondly, they can never be the person that they think you were or that you want them to be.
Wow.
And I think that is huge. When I first read that, I was like, wow, it was a real light bulb moment for me. So I constantly now, I don't get it right all the time. I constantly now try my best not to coach him technically so much, but just to coach the psychological side of sport for him and make sure he understands that no matter what he does, I love him. And that's the underlying. So we talk about, after a performance, we don't talk about performance itself, we talk about a character. So he will do something and say, he'll go for a swimming gala. He did this great swimming gala day as a fun gala. And he bless him, he's 11, but he was putting on the 13s. And he was the only under 13s boy there. So he did every single race. But because it was fun gala, they did the things like, they did a butterfly kick on his back. Now, he's a typical boy, and he does not like kicking. And he, halfway through this race, he was last, and he suddenly just put everything into it. He buried himself, and he got to the end, and I was like, that was amazing. After the race, I said to him, they came back in the car, I was like, which bit do you think I was most proud of? He said, was it when I was last in the butterfly kick? I was like, absolutely right, because you showed such an amazing character then. You just dug deep, you put everything into it, because that's all you can control. You can control your character, you can control your attitude, how you show up. You can't control external factors. He could be swimming against the next Olympic swimmer.
Yeah.
That's out of his control. But his control is showing up, and still, it doesn't matter if he got a false start or whatever, just going again and going again. And so I constantly try to pick on bits of character and go, I love that bit. Because then hopefully the message you'll get was, do you know what? As long as I show up on the best version of me, as long as I've got great attitude, then that's all that matters. And that for me is...
It's really interesting, actually, mate. My youngest daughter is finishing high school this year. She's going through exams as we're recording. And as we've spoken before, she's a competitive gymnast. And she's struggled to balance the two activities. You know, it's a lot. It's 24 hours a week of gym and how many hours a week of school. And it's exactly the same thing. She always says, are you still proud of me, Dad? You know, if I didn't get this great mark in whatever it is. And let's face it, it's still a pretty good mark, but the perfectionistic gene has come through a bit. And it's exactly the same. I think what I'm most impressed about when I see people is their attitude, their resilience, their bounce back ability, and the ability to kind of grind it out even when things are a bit tough, to just kind of see it through and to keep pushing. I think there's some really wonderful attributes there that sports does teach kids, and I think it's a great life lesson.
We talk about it a lot, don't we? I think sport's a wonderful thing because it gives kids the ability to fail in a safe environment. And the lessons that comes with that, you just can't mimic it until you hit the real world. And by then, sometimes it's too late if they're too old. So, and the failures are too hard for them to come back from sometimes. So, I love sport for that reason. I mean, sport gave me so much, and hopefully it'll give Ethan as much as it gave me. The teamship, the leadership, the resilience, bounce back ability, whatever you call it, understanding that it's okay to fail, and understanding that actually the most important ball is the next ball.
Yeah.
The most important game is the next game. The most important tackle is the next tackle. So you get to move on really quickly. And it's that great stoic philosophy, isn't it? I love that. We're saying you cannot control what happens to you. You can control how you react to that. And for me, that's just beauty.
You know, it's easy to say. Sometimes it's hard to do. Sometimes we get caught up in our own heads and our own bits and pieces. I think it's really nice to be able to also be a bit kind to yourself if you are kind of going through a bit of a patch of, you know, it's not going quite to plan, and sometimes the doubt and whatnot creeps in. But to also know that will pass, and to know that the next century is around the corner, the next great tackle, the next great pass, or the next great whatever. You just got to keep going for that next great thing to happen, right?
Yeah. Do you know what? Just a quick flip there, because you said something beautiful. Is that we spoke about this during the summer. I went for a difficult period in the summer, getting rid of DEMPLAN in our practice. And I remember I probably cried twice a year on calls. This was the second time. and I was broken. And I think it's so easy in sport to go, because it's such a quick recurring thing. You're right, you got your next game straight away. But in business, it's not quick. The fix is actually, you fix now, but you see the effects 6 months, a year later. So it's very hard not to not live either in the past or in the moment just gone. And you said that to me. You said, Rupert, look at me. This too shall pass.
This too shall pass.
That is true. You don't see it when you're in it. And I think that's where I struggle when I went from sport to becoming a leader when you're at the coalface. I liken it to being a captain. Again, I was sport my youth, and then you're a captain on the rugby side. It's okay because you can set the tone. You can make all the tackles. You can shout the loudest. You can do the bit of skill to win the game. It's like you being a dentist in dental practice. You're trying to constantly fix everything, but you can't be a business owner. You can't do the same thing. You can't see wood for the trees. So that transition from being captain to being a coach, as it were, which you are then when you're a business owner, is a really hard transition to go through. It really is.
It's really difficult. And I guess that comes back to the identity piece as well. I don't want that to pass by without being remarked upon, because we do talk about identity a lot, and we talk about, you know, all progress begins with the death of an identity. And so going from captain to coach, dentist to practice owner or business owner, all those sorts of identities need to shift. And you said you never really identified as a dentist. And of course you find yourself in the world of being a dentist. And I absolutely resonate with that too, because I knew very early on in my career that, I think I've put my ladder up the wrong tree here. I can't see myself sitting in these four walls for the next 30, 40 years. I'm going to need to figure something out. And I wanted to ask you how you thought or how you felt or what you experienced when you realized that perhaps there was a mismatch between your identity or lack of as a dentist and the role that you're actually completing on a day-to-day basis. Because I'm sure there'll be other people that resonate, and some won't, but that's okay.
Yeah, no, It's a really good question, really deep question, Jess. I think, in all honesty, I wasn't honest to myself.
Yeah.
I was playing a role that I thought I should be playing rather than being true to myself and realizing who I was. It goes back to another thing about why I think is key in leadership. It's being authentic. And I know it's easy to say that. I heard it so often, leadership podcasts and whatever. Be authentic. I think I had to find out first who I really was. And I think, so my role models growing up, I had some amazing role models. My dad being one of them, and my older brother being another. This is male role models. My mum was an amazing female role model as well. I had great coaches, great captains, etc. But I struggled with that perception in my head of who I wanted to be was this person on a pedestal who didn't have any vulnerability, who didn't show emotion at the wrong time. So when I came to actually being in that position, I thought I shouldn't be feeling this way. Therefore, it's not right. Therefore, I'm failing. I'm not this person I thought I was going to be.
Right.
And I really struggled from that change of the perception of the person I thought I was to the person I really was. It took me a long time to become okay with who I was as a person and not just be this bravado guy who, do you know what, I can deal with everything. And we talk a lot about having mental strength as growing up. And I thought, absolutely had it nailed. And then suddenly you're in a position where I'm struggling, where this is pre-COVID. I was working ridiculously hard. My amazing wife had started doing her Botox and she'd got a clinic on our house. And suddenly I was by myself. When you're leading with someone else, it's easier sometimes just to crack on with it and you help each other out, don't you? You see the Robert Greene book, 33 Strategies of War, where he talks about not being a true strategist because you're in a battle. And it felt like at times when you're doing dentistry, you're in the battle 100%. And you're fixing it because you're working harder, you're trying hard to get there. But what you're doing is you cannot see anything. And he talks about seeing a mountain, doesn't he? And he goes, actually, if you walk up the mountain 300 feet, then you can become a tactician because you can see a bit more. You can still feel the emotion of the battle beneath you, but you can see a bit clearer what's going on. And you go up further, then you're a strategist. And then you go up to the top of the mountain and you're a proper major player, you're a great strategist, you're a grandmaster strategist. For me, like dentistry, when you're doing the job, you're on the tools, that's you in the midst of the battle, trying to fight fires and problem solve constantly. You're doing a root canal 1 minute, and then your practice manager comes the next with the question about someone hasn't paid this, or this bill's coming through next month, how are we going to do that? And you're completely frazzled. You can't turn on quickly and answer that question. Yeah, and I found when Alannah and I were both working together, I sort of got away with it. And then as soon as she went away and did her other stuff, and she's built an incredibly successful business by herself, doing her skincare and Botox and fillers, I was left by myself in a battle. And it took me a long time to realise I needed to step out and see, and I struggled in that period.
I think there's a lot of dentists that spend their day, to use that battle metaphor, running and gunning all day, right? And it's exhausting.
Yeah.
It's interesting. You kind of realize you're meant to be the tactician and the strategist and so on, but when you're busy in that battle, it's tiring. And as you said, the context switching is real, and you're constantly switching from one thing to another, to another, to another, and that's also tiring. And I think, this is just my personal view, and I'd be interested in yours, I think that's why so many dentists kind of get stuck in that role and they never really kind of elevate their way out of it. But I'm interested, because you've got lots of friends and colleagues around the world as dentists as well. What are your observations about people kind of getting stuck in that running and gunning kind of role and not really getting the opportunity, or not taking or creating the opportunity to level up?
Honestly, it's hard.
It is hard.
It's hard.
It's bloody hard.
It's a mountain for a reason. It's hard to climb it.
Yeah.
It's all well saying, oh, look, I can see better from up there. But actually making this first step to like a mountain, that's difficult. That's difficult because then you're changing people's perceptions of you, but also you're challenging them to, especially with your team, you've got to make them come with you. So you're great saying win hearts and minds. I think it's so important, but you've got to understand where you want to go first and how you want to approach it. And you haven't got time to make the strategy because you're still fighting fires. So it is very, very difficult. And I think for me personally, it's the best thing I ever did was to try and make that first step. But you've seen the journey, Jess. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. I mean, we had COVID as well, which is another story together. But the whole process was very, very challenging to do. So I honestly think dentists feel stuck. They feel stuck because they feel alone. they've got a network around them, but actually the network of dentists, I don't think we're vulnerable enough as a community. I really don't. I've just reached out to a very, very good friend of ours from university who I was at dental school with. And we had a great conversation a couple of weeks ago. He's got 2 fantastic practices in Twickenham. And he's a really good lad. He's built a fantastic community for startup dentists. And he's done brilliant things. I have huge respect for him. It was a wonderful moment because we were both vulnerable with each other. We both went, how's your second clinic going? And I was like, yeah, it's tough. It's tough. It's tough at the moment. It's difficult. And he was like, yeah, my second practice is tough too. And people don't see that on Instagram or see that when you go to these big events and you want to show you're doing well. So it's really hard in front of a crowd to be vulnerable. But as we know, I don't know if you heard of Brené Brown, Jesse? Sorry.
Yeah, once or twice.
Jesse's got an intellectual crush, is it?
Intellectual crush. I have to say intellectual because it just sounds weird otherwise, right? It just sounds really weird.
But no, it's really powerful. And I think it was really opening for us to go, do you know what? I really want to help you. How can I help you? And he was like, how can I help you? And it was just wonderful to go. It needs us first to go, yeah, I'm not okay.
Yeah.
For us to go, yeah, brilliant, let's help each other out. So the first step and being vulnerable is tricky.
I don't think that's unique to British dentists. I think that's certainly something we see in the Australian dental community and probably the broader community as well. Let's face it, it's not just dentists. And we seem to kind of walk around as though we have to be perfect. We have to have everything just so. And I think, look, I'm on the record many times saying I think social media is not helpful in that regard, because everyone's putting their best life online and everyone thinks that that's the real deal, but it's a highlight reel. But I wanted to ask you a bit about when you first became comfortable in your skin. Because that shift, when you had that identity mismatch, trying on this identity doesn't feel right. I'm not being true to myself, I think you said. And we spoke about authenticity. When was it that you became comfortable going, you know what, this is who I am, and that's fine. That's okay. I don't need to be something that I'm not. How did that process unfold for you?
Again, really good question. I think it was a gradual process. It wasn't a light bulb moment. Because again, going back to my upbringing, my parents gave us great values and great morals, and integrity was one of them. I knew I was a person. I knew I'd stood by my word. So deep down, I knew who I was, but I didn't know how me fitted in the world of dentistry.
Yeah.
So me as a rugby player and as someone socially, you wouldn't necessarily put in scenario being in a dental's chair. So I had to work out actually how to be me in that setting. And I do remember to this day, I first moved down south after being up in Newcastle. And we were, my wife and I, then girlfriend, working in the same practice that we eventually bought. And I remember she listening to me greeting the patient. She came in and she went, what was that voice you made put on? I was like, what's wrong with the voice? Because you just sounded so weird. And I was trying to be, because I looked about 13 when I was qualified. I was trying to be this Dr. Neville, nice to meet you. It came out really weird. And I think if you're not authentic, people can't put the finger on it, but something is weird and there's something that's off. And therefore they don't have that trust built with you. So I think trying to work out who it was okay for me to be me in a dental setting was quite powerful, put it that way.
Yeah. And
just to be me and take the mickey out of people and fun with patients in a nice professional way. But that's me. That's me. So I think it's important that I was okay with that first and foremost, but it was definitely a gradual thing. It wasn't okay, this is me today, I'm going to turn up.
We touched on COVID a moment ago. For those listeners tuning in outside the UK, I think it's worth noting that the UK had some of the most stringent regulations for dentistry that I'd heard of, at least. And just to give a sense of what your COVID experience was like, could you just let us know some of the rules and regs that you had to comply with during that period? And then, of course, the impact that had on you, the team, the business, the patients. What was that experience like?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. It was very difficult. To put it in perspective, though, my father and my brother are both spiritual consultants. At the time, my younger brother was a spiritual registrar, and he was the front line. Yeah, and I have so much respect for that boy. He's a proper man. He went through trauma you never believed. They got given bin bags to wear as PPE. He was in beds full of people who were being told they were dying, and he had to make phone calls to their loved ones. I mean, so to put in perspective, yeah, it was tough, but not on the level of what he went through.
Yeah, sure.
However, it wasn't easy. We had to wear these respirators. We had to leave. Once you used a high-speed drill, you had to once you created aerosol, leave the room for an hour to fallow afterwards. So you couldn't use that surgery again. You had a deep clean surgery, which took at least 15 minutes. So it was just that clinical side alone was difficult. But remember, we weren't given any indication by the powers that be of how we should be doing this.
Yeah.
It was literally like, you just do it. As long as you've got something written down to say you've thought of things properly, it's fine. It was like a Wild West. Some clinics were doing crazy things and getting away with it. And I think it was really important for me that we did everything by the letter, or whatever letter we came up with, but by what everyone else is doing, and do it properly, because we were part of a small community. And a lot of our patients, our elderly patients, were very vulnerable. So, and the knock-on effect it had for my staff, my team, who can I say are just incredible. I'm very, very blessed to have an amazing team. Team make you, don't they? My team are just fantastic. But during that period, it was very, very difficult. I mean, it seemed to me as well that COVID brought out anything that was underneath the surface in their personal lives came to fruition as well at the same time. And we managed to get through it, and they definitely helped me and supported me through it. They were fantastic. But the short answer, it was not an easy time. And it took a long time to come through. So we only finished the protocols, and the protocols, I think it was March, I'd say 22, I think it was. Yeah, something crazy like that. So it was a challenging time.
Yeah, I remember talking to you at that time and thinking, oh my God, those restrictions are really tight. And of course, in Australia, we had our own situation, and like every country has their own situation. But I just remember at the time thinking, wow, that's really tough, because the impact on cash flow, the impact on well-being, not just the physical well-being from the COVID point of view, but the mental well-being as the business owner. Like, how am I going to pay wages because I can only operate, a fraction of the time?
Yeah.
Like, there was just a lot of stuff to juggle, and certainly that mental toughness, that bounce back ability, certainly you probably needed to dig pretty deep during that time.
Yeah, 100%. And it was difficult. I mean, also I know it's easy to say, but no one knew what was happening. I mean, no one knew what you were going through. And it's really tough when you're trying to be supportive of other people, and for everyone, you're trying to be the rock for your team and for people around you, your family. You've got no one to cry on. So yeah, that was difficult, because you just constantly felt you have to be strong for everyone else. So I found that challenging, rewarding, a lot of conflicting emotions all in one, put it that way.
Yeah. So just to come back to the shift from captain to coach in the context of your team now, moving away from being, hands-on clinical so much and to not so much at all these days, I'm curious to ask what your interactions are like with your team now, and equally how the team have responded to your new role, what you've learned from sports, what did you take into the team environment, and how's that showing up today?
Yeah, great question, Jess. You're good at this, aren't you? Some great questions, Jesse.
it only took 480 odd episodes, mate. Yeah, slow learner.
I love it. Yeah, I love the word coach. I mean, one thing I lost during COVID was my passion.
Yeah.
I've always been a passionate person. And I remember coming to work one day thinking, oh God, I'm miserable. Everyone's around me is miserable. And I put a front on for the patients, but my team felt it from me. So the one thing I did was I'm a passionate person. I'm going to show up and be passionate today. And I did that. It was a real good flick for me. Because I love the metaphor of coaching, because I love coaching, as you well know. I love it. I love sports coaching. I love coaching my dentist, coaching my team. I love it. Happily talk to anyone about psychology. And I find the whole thing fascinating. So, and that's my passion. So I love coaching my team, and they are brilliant. And I've got the most amazing dentists now. I've got Zoe, Catherine, Laura, and they're just brilliant. They're like sponges. They take it all on board. They're fantastic. And it's like any coaching. The more you coach someone or a team, the better they make you, because they challenge you as well. and they challenge your ideas, your philosophies, the way you approach things. And I constantly reflect on how I'm delivering stuff. I'm not perfect by any means. I get things a lot wrong, but I love reflecting, going, oh my God, how would I have done that differently? What language did I use? And I think the key thing I picked up recently, went to a rugby coaching course, was how important language was. I know you're a huge believer in good language, and being precise with the language you use, because too often we don't. And you talk about with patience, but I think talking about it with when you're coaching is so important. Not only your team, but also kids. Kids, if you say something and they perceive it slightly differently, that has a completely different meaning to them.
Yeah.
Completely different meaning. And kids take it face value. So you've got to be so careful with what you're saying, especially when emotions come a part of sport or your team or whatever it may be. So trying to be calm and selective with the language you use is very difficult, but my God, it's really important.
Yeah, really powerful. And look, you do have a great team, Rupert, but I'm going to say you've created a great team, because I've watched the team evolve, and with all care and kindness to the previous team members who are all wonderful human beings, I feel like you've been able to craft a team now that is really aligned with your vision, your values. You kind of buy into what you're trying to do. And firstly, I just want to say well done to you. I think that's a tremendous achievement. I'm curious to understand what the vibe in the practice is like. What's that culture like? We always talk about culture as this thing, but it's one of those things that's hard to describe. It's sometimes hard to put your finger on and go, what is it? But I'm going to ask you to have a crack at putting your finger on it nonetheless, and tell me how you would describe the culture you practice these days as a result of you stepping into that coach role.
Yeah, I think just first and foremost, you hit the nail on the head of the wonderful human beings. My staff are a bunch of wonderful human beings, and they're led brilliantly by Wendy, a lead nurse, got Lisa, Lauren, Carolyn, Lex, and Jen, and they're just lovely people. And we have this thing about the huddle, and I say the huddle can be a bit haphazard anymore, you know what it's like. And the only thing I care about is to try and end it with laughter. No matter what it is, we have a conversation about whatever it is, but it just creates a lovely atmosphere. So the patients walk in something, they know something's going on, everyone's smiling and laughing, and it's such a powerful thing. So trying to install culture is, I would say, very difficult. My reflection is that I've chosen people who are very similar to me, and the first thing, that they're passionate people, but they care about people. They care about people, and that caring is huge for me. My mantra is we treat our patients and staff members as if a member of our family. And if they care, I love that saying in teaching, I love it, is people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I think that is so true in every walk of life. And I love my team dearly, and I hope they know it. And if I think they don't, I try and tell them, and I'll sit them down and go, look, it's happened recently. If I've got things wrong, I'm sorry, but my God, just to let you know, I think you're absolutely amazing. And I completely have got your back no matter what. And I think it's important I think we forget sometimes as bosses to reiterate that. We assume our team know that, but actually to constantly tell them is super important. So culture is an interesting one. I think there's two things that resonate me with talking about culture. Is firstly is the conversations you walk past and the behavior you accept. I think that's super important.
Yes.
And I'm in a position now where I don't walk past any conversations. They're when a team self-police themselves, they are just on an absolute winner. And they care about your other members of your staff and your patients the way you do. And that's just marvelous. And I see emails now and again that my staff have written. I'm like, yeah, that is spot on. It's lovely, it's caring, it's warm, and it's just complete going, yeah, do you know what? We care about you, and that's the most important thing. So there's that. And there's secondly, which is the difficult bit of it, are the difficult conversations.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite sayings is how successful you are in business is directly proportional to how many difficult conversations you're willing to have.
Yeah.
I think it's really, they're difficult for a reason. No one likes having those conversations, but if you can lean into it and approach that in a nice, positive way, I think it's super important because everyone likes to know where they stand. Everyone likes to know what success looks like. And the more you reiterate that, the better.
One of the things I've discovered in my work is that the person who does the coaching often learns as much, sometimes more, than the person being coached.
Yeah.
What have you learned from your team that perhaps you might not have learned otherwise?
From my team, I think it's understanding that you're not perfect all the time, and that's okay. Again, that perfectionist issue in dentistry, we see us as role models, as leaders. We've got to be this person who shows up with great energy, great passion every day. But it's okay to have off days. And I think when you're having off days, it's okay to go, I'm having an off day because of this. And I think I used to bury stuff too much. I used to pretend I was fine. They can pick up, but you're not fine. People pick up on it, don't they? They understand something's not quite right. But then if you're not honest with them, they think it's about them.
Yeah.
They'll say it's because of me he's a bit off. So, and that's taught me a lot to go, actually, just talk. Just either get into one side, pick the phone up or whatever, just to reiterate, it's not you, it's me. I'm not having a bad day or whatever it may be. So again, that vulnerability thing, but also that communication, open communication. But I think it's very hard. I've got a great team. I've got Wendy as my lead nurse. She would just give me a heads up. By the way, I know you probably were just having a bad day or whatever it may be, or you ignore someone without realising it, but just to let you know, this is what happened. Yeah, wow. So you can't be everyone to everything all the time. And you need to have support around you and a good team to help you through those occasions, but also help you navigate in the best way. And I think beforehand, again, I say it's easy. I had Alannah with me. So Alannah, before she started doing aesthetics, was there with me. So she was the ear to the ground. So I could be blissfully ignorant as a man in a woman environment, just going through, and not really understanding. She was smooth things behind me properly. So when you're the only guy there, as I have been for a long time now, it's a bit more challenging.
And so I think that's something that is really remarkable there, that is just useful, just acknowledging before we move on, and that is the fact that Wendy feels comfortable to come and have that conversation with you as well. And you've created that relationship, that space for her to be able to say that, and for you to be able to receive that feedback with the grace with which it's been given as well. She's giving you that feedback with the very best of intentions. You're taking it with the best of intentions, and that's a really lovely relationship right there. And I think, again, those relationships don't happen by accident. In my experience, I think you've done really well to create that. So, go you! I think it's fantastic. Can we talk a little bit about Alannah's clinic, because it's a great clinic and she does great work, and I'm just wondering again what you've learned by opening that clinic, how that's been. You said before it's not always easy, and it's not, of course, it never is. Tell us a little bit about Alannah's clinic, what it does, and I'm curious to understand your lessons about that business, operating that in addition to your first practice.
The most amount of lessons in the world, because I failed the most times. No.
They're lessons. That's all they are. They're just lessons, right?
Just lessons, man. Amazing. So brief history. So we met at Newcastle University, and I saw this girl in first year, and she was stunning, like beautiful. I said before, I looked about 13 when I was 18. So I remember saying to myself, hey, dude, in 5 years' time, if you're here for 5 years, there's a chance you may get with her. So by the time we actually got together, I was pretty amazed, actually, I'll be honest with you.
Wow. That's putting that to the universe nice and early, isn't it?
100%, dude.
I love it.
So part of me, I backed myself, but also I didn't. So
I love it. It's good. It all worked out.
We got together, and then she moved down south for me, and then we obviously bought the practice together in 2011. And then she, around about just before Ethan was born, actually, she doesn't identify as a dentist. And a fair play to her, she had the guts to go, do you know what? I'm just looking to find what I love, and I'm going to find it, I'm going to go for it. Yeah. And she's got a wonderful character where she sees something, she just goes for it. So she did a course on Botox, and then she did a course on fillers, and then she started seeing patients, and then she got asked to be a trainer. So she gone to London, she trained other doctors and dentists to be injectors, and she built a clinic from nothing. We then converted a dining room in our house to be a surgery. And then we eventually moved that to Southsea. So we rented a place out first, and then last year we opened our own clinic. So she has built this from scratch. I mean, hats off to her, patient base, etc. However, when you then open a clinic that has huge different complications involved.
Yes.
And it's a startup. First thing, no one ever teaches you how to be a business person at dental school. We all know that.
Yes.
But also, it's a different skill set actually buying an established practice than actually opening a brand new one.
Oh, yes.
And going, here we go.
100% different skill sets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I had neither of those skill sets.
But you acquired them. But the thing is, you've acquired them.
I tried to quickly. But it's interesting about mistakes, isn't it? I made mistakes time and time again. And we both did, but it's okay. The problem is financially, they're tough mistakes to swallow. So, yeah, I mean, we've positioned now where it's a beautiful clinic and Alannah's done it to such a lovely high spec. But obviously, you then got a 3 surgery clinic that's only really got enough patients for 1 surgery. So you're trying to build and build and build. And as we know, when it comes to word of mouth, that's your biggest selling point. But that's a slow process.
It is.
That does not happen overnight. And I think when you open a new clinic, you're hoping to start straight away and go. And it takes a long time to get there. So I think if someone at Technoshop went, do just have more patience, it'll be okay. But don't rush into trying to create your marketing and plow money into this and into that because you're in a rush to get somewhere. So I think my best advice to myself again would be, just chill. It's okay. Just make sure what you put in place can survive a couple of years.
Yeah.
And then just build on that.
I've always been really impressed with Alannah's abilities in that space around, fillers, Botox and so on, and skin. And she's got a particular process which you guys have marketed, the SK7 process. And what I really love about that is how that's now your process, right? You've been able to market that, been able to have that as a point of difference throughout the community. I'm just curious to understand what the idea of that process has been. We can go through the steps if you want to, but what I'm trying to think about is creating the intellectual property asset and what that thought process was like and how that's been a way to help organise the practice and the way it operates for you.
Alannah and I weren't particularly aligned on the whole SK7 skin thing.
Okay.
So I had a great idea in my head and we talked about it together about doing the SK7 skin, which was a process, how we approach skincare from the patient first contact point with us, their consultation, their skin scan, to then how we create a bespoke treatment package for their skin, but then gets reviewed over a time period. And it was to try to introduce something in skincare which was similar to having dentistry with our regular checkups, etc., and to maintain rather than prevent long term, rather than trying to firefight. But of course, for me personally, coming from a dental point of view, Alannah very much from the medical aesthetics point of view, trying to make sure we both were going in the same direction at the same time was difficult, because although we live together and we talk a lot, when it comes to talk about business, it's hard sometimes to sit down and go, right, let's focus on this point for now. So it took us a long time to get to where we are now. It's like any idea. I think in my head, I wanted it done and that was it, bang, in place. When clearly that was never going to happen. So it's a staged process, and it's evolved over time. And now it's going really nicely. Now we've got everything aligned. And when I say aligned, it's not from the skincare therapists, it's including the aesthetic doctors as well. Plus we refer to dermatology, etc. So it's a lovely step process that we do. The idea behind it being that over in the UK, skin health is ignored. Especially by GPs, they haven't got the time to see you for skin tags, lesions, etc. So it's to give patients a first point of call to see someone and get their skin treated properly. And it's about your body health rather than just your skin. So yeah, I mean, it's a great concept, but it took us a way to get there.
It's a unique asset for your business, and by articulating that process and describing it, you've now, again, given yourself a category of one, right? There's no one else with an SK7 process. There's no one else with Alannah's skill set. And yes, I know that new businesses take time to build and grow. But again, putting those things in place, I think you're laying just such a nice foundation there that is a really useful thing. Can we also talk about the DEMPLAN situation? And
yeah, of course, can.
Yeah, because I don't want to kind of wade into controversial territory, but I think it's useful to understand what DEMPLAN is for the non-UK practices and why you removed yourself from that program. But what I'm interested in actually is the courage it took to remove yourself from that program, because it was a real process. It required some guts and determination, frankly. Let's have a little talk about DEMPLAN and the past, present and future.
Yeah, well, firstly, thank you, because looking back, it took a lot of courage, and thanks for the support in that, because it was difficult. It was difficult because DEMPLAN was entrenched in our practice. Now, DEMPLAN is a capitation scheme, and DEMPLAN was designed initially when practices were moving from the old NHS to private. And it worked where the principal dentist looked after the patients. And the idea behind is the patients paid a monthly premium to DEMPLAN. They took their cut and gave the rest of the practice. So no matter what treatment they needed, it was covered under DEMPLAN. Now, they paid a laboratory fee on top of that for crowns, for other laboratory work, and they paid a fee on top of that for root canal files. But otherwise, everything was covered. So yeah, it works great until you have an associate-led model. Now, the issue with us in DEMPLAN, we pride ourselves being a forefront of dental care now. We're very much aesthetic, cosmetic work, and we do whole preventative care. So under that model, DEMPLAN does not work. So we get patients who are paying £500 a year, should we say. I'm getting £2,500 worth of work in that year. Now, as a business model, Jesse, as you well know, that doesn't work.
That doesn't work. No.
That does not work.
No.
But it's difficult. And the challenge we faced, firstly, it's always been in the business. But secondly, we've had patients who've been with the business since 1982 and been on DEMPLAN ever since then. And what I found really fascinating is that some of those people, after being with us for 30 plus years, have turned around and saying, we're going to leave because we want to go to a DEMPLAN practice. So their loyalty is to the brand, not the people caring for them, which I found really, really interesting. We've had a few who've gone away and come back because they realised that actually the brand isn't what they're getting. It is the people. Yeah. And that's why it took a lot of courage to do it. I mean, in my head, I knew it was the right thing to do. And the growth of the practice, I can see already we're going to go in a fantastic direction now. But it was challenging. It was challenging on a lot of levels. It was challenging to get the team behind me in that approach, because obviously it's always been there. And because with the team, they trust me. They really trust me. It's still the unknown. Because if I do this, if we lose all those DEMPLAN patients, that's suddenly a huge part of our business. So then it's their livelihood that I'm potentially putting at risk. It was a very difficult time period. And I'm proud of the way we went around it and did it. I mean, I probably would have done some things slightly differently. I've had this conversation with these people saying that maybe I could have done that slightly differently. But I mean, it was a really stressful time period, but I think we ended up navigating it pretty well. And I'm so proud of my team again. I'll say it again, they're fantastic. The dentists, the hygienists, and the core, my nursing staff and front desk have been just fantastic. The way they've dealt with my patients. I say they're their patients really, because they're the ones doing all the hard work for them. And the care and love. And we always said, you say this, Jesse, all the time, if you're going to lose a patient, make their last experience with you be fantastic. And the girls have done that brilliantly, absolutely brilliantly, and shown such care. And I've been so proud. I've had one person actually phone me to ask if they can come back. Oh, wow. And the narrative was, your staff was so amazing that nothing was ever too much of an issue dealing with my questions. The emails got from them lovely, and I felt I wanted to come back to practice because of that. So, I mean, they're a very special team.
You mentioned that a lot of patients, or some patients, felt they wanted to be in a DEMPLAN practice.
Yeah.
But then there was another cohort that actually realised and appreciated the level of care that your particular practice had been providing them. So when people opt out of some of these types of schemes, there's usually this big fear of, I'm going to lose my entire client base or patient base. That fear, did it materialise in the way that in your worst nightmare scenario, or did it work out better than expected?
Of course not. It never does it? No. It never does in your worst case scenario.
Yeah.
But I mean, no, 100%. I think that was the most warming thing, is that actually I think there was a fear when we sent the email out to patients. A bit get big backlash. And actually, it was interesting that the narrative initially that we had, there was some people question it. And I think once we explained it properly, they got it. They're like, well, that makes no sense business-wise. How could, I completely get that. And a lot of people straight off the bat were just saying, yeah, I'm not leaving. I completely appreciate what you've done for us, and I can see why it won't work. So, yeah, we're really happy. So we're staying, which was, I think, really important for the team to hear.
Yeah.
And that was a really good initial narrative we heard straight away. So it was really good.
Yeah. So, Rupert, from your perspective commercially, what's that meant for you in terms of, we don't need to get specifics, but, in terms of, revenue, what percentage is it going to add for you, or on a monthly basis, what's the uplift or something like that? Well, has it been commercially worthwhile for you?
Yeah, I mean, we're still not through it yet. November's going to be a tough month because we're still honouring, and I've made that really clear, we're going to do that, honour all the treatment that was still ongoing for DEMPLAN. So we've still got 30 odd cases we're seeing this month. So we're not going to see the real benefit down until a few months down the line. But already, it's just, it's going to make financial sense. And I think the best thing about it is that we can really grow the practice as I want to. And just having the funds to be able to do that would be absolutely magnificent. So the way we started our journey the last couple of years, we'll be able to really to see it through now, which is, DEMPLAN was like a handbrake. Yeah. It was stopping us. And that was, I think, the realization that we could actually just take off the handbrake was actually quite relieving, really. So it was good.
Yeah, I think for me, observing your practice go through this transition, there's a few things that I noticed out of that, and one is that the patients have a much stronger relationship with you than perhaps you realised, and they actually care for you and your practice perhaps more than you realised. And secondly, I think that the courage to do the right thing. You said, I don't want to walk past the decision that's the right decision to make. I don't want to walk past it. And I just want to acknowledge the fact that you've seen this, noticed it, and then taken the necessary steps for your business. And that might not be the same for every other practice, and that's okay, but you've made the decisions that you feel are right, and you've had the courage to follow through with that, mate. And I think that's a really great leadership quality. It does take a good dollop of courage to do that.
Yeah, it does. Thanks, Jess. That means a lot, is it? Yeah. Because when you're making that decision, you're by yourself. Okay, you've got sounding boards around you, but you're the ones you've got to make that decision first and foremost. And then you've got to put a process strategy in place to make that happen. And trying to maintain the strength in that time period and the positivity and the compassion again, it can be tricky. I mean, we know it's tricky. So it's a difficult time, and thanks for acknowledging that. That was cool.
But the on the other side of that is a really bright future, and on the other side of that is you being able to run your business the way that you want to run that, having the revenue that you need to be able to generate to do the things you want to do, to pay the people you want to pay, to invest in the things you want to invest in. So I think that on the other side of this transition is lots of upside, mate. So again, I think it's good.
Thank you. But we spoke about a lot of it seems it's been never ending. We've had COVID and then we had a small NHS contract as well, which we again said goodbye to a couple of years back, and it was a similar sort of process of going through. So I mean, though don't get it wrong, I've learned a lot about myself for the last 4 or 5 years. It'd be lovely to when it starts flowing nicely.
Yeah, good. So Rupert, if we could capture your lessons and distill them into the essence of Rupert Neville's business lessons or life lessons, even probably go broader, what are a couple of key things that you'd want to leave the audience with so that they can ponder that and kind of maybe take those principles into their own life and apply them in a way that makes sense for them?
I'll be looking back at my rugby career and think, what did I learn? And ironically, there are really similar lessons to my business life. They really are. I think finding out who you are as a person and being true to that is number one. Be passionate along the way. I think it's absolutely crucial. The power of vulnerability, when to use that appropriately, I think is super important. Not to be too vulnerable all the time, because you still need to be a rock, in guiding people, but show them a little bit of vulnerability is really important. And not being perfect all the time. And I think if people can see that side of you and understand that you can get it wrong too, and I think if you own up when it does go wrong, that's super powerful. I really believe that. because often not, as leaders, we make a mistake, or the way we maybe speak to someone or approach conversation, and we brush it on the carpet because we think, oh, well, I got it wrong, but who cares? And I think you're wrong. Everyone cares. And I think if you turn around next time and go, do you know what? If I had my time again, I'd have done it slightly differently, and I've reflected and I'm sorry, then I think that's possibly even more powerful than you delivering a strong message with the right language at the right time. That's really, really important. I think the perfections issues are so challenging with regards to dentistry. And again, like into rugby, in rugby, we had your skill set had to be perfect. When I was practicing my kicking, it had to be perfect. My passing is perfect. Your dentistry is very similar to that. And understanding that getting things wrong is part of your journey. And it's great going, okay, that's another lesson. I had a great conversation with my brother about this. He goes, well, when am I going to start having somebody bring me lessons? Why is it always so difficult? And it is. Sometimes it's so difficult and challenging, and you feel like you're on your own. Yeah. So if you can create a network of not like-minded people, it doesn't have to be many, just a couple of sounding boards, I think that is powerful. I mean, I've had you, Jess. I'm going to big you up now. Going to embarrass yourself here. You've been incredible for me, and not just as a business coach, as a life coach, but also you've been a great human being to me. And I said this before, it's been twice I've cried on you, and you've just gone, whoa, let's unravel this. What's going on? How can I help? And it's been so powerful. And I think at a time where I didn't have that person next to me, when Alannah had gone on to do her thing, and okay, we're still, a married couple and talked a lot. I sometimes didn't want to be vulnerable in front of her and to tell her I wasn't okay without her. I wanted to be strong. So having someone like you to be able to go, yeah, do you know what? It's cool. As you said, this too shall pass. So mate, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. You've been incredible. And again, going back to our start of the conversation, when I listened to your first podcast, I never thought I would have gone through the journey I've gone through to get to this point. And then to be able to talk about my lessons and my failings and vulnerability and positivity as well, because it has been a positive journey as such. It's been fantastic, and it's you've been amazing. So thank you so much. Bottom of my heart, thank you so much.
Oh, mate, I am deeply grateful for those kind words. Here's my vulnerability piece. I never quite know what to do with a compliment, Rupert, other than to say thank you and then try to quickly move on, because
receptivity, Jess.
Yes, I know. See, there's my growth moment right there, right? But let me practice and try and step into that growth moment. Thank you. I really appreciate those kind words. And this is obviously a public broadcast, but just personally talking to you right now, mate, the thrill, the joy I get out of watching people do good work, come through challenges, uncover strengths that they didn't even know that they had, or maybe they knew they had but had been a bit dormant, or whatever it might be, just to do that. You have demonstrated, I think, immense courage on a sustained period, going through so many different things, whether it's COVID, whether it's the DEMPLAN thing, or dealing with some of the challenges at Pemberley. There's been lots of stuff that you've had to kind of grit your teeth and bounce back from, to use your language. So again, I think your evolution as a leader has been really remarkable to watch, and it's still going, and I'm just excited for the next chapter, mate. So I'm stoked, and I feel really blessed and privileged to have had a ringside seat to this particular journey. So thank you for allowing me to be part of it. I'm really appreciative.
That's my pleasure.
Now, mate, we have covered a lot of territory, and we have been uphill and down dale.
And down dale.
You're a good man.
You've been generous with your time.
You got me. You're a rat bag. What would I do without you?
Sorry, dude.
No, that's funny. That's really funny. Okay. That feels like an appropriate time to sign off, mate. So from all of us here, I really do appreciate your generosity and for sharing of yourself and your time. Thanks, mate. You're an absolute gem.
Oh, mate, right back at you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Savvy Dentist podcast. For more episodes, go to drjessiegreen.com/savvydentist. And to discover how to build a high-performance dental practice, visit drjessiegreen.com and download the free report.